Is Dallas drafting a quarterback? Well, it's a strong maybe, according to Adam Schefter, who said this yesterday. The Cowboys might be a sleeper team in the quarterback market during the draft because at some point in time, they might have to draft a quarterback higher than you think. Joining us here.
Wow.
What a day.
Wearing Cowboy
That is a Cowboy
tie.
Exciting.
And it's been so
I was ready. It has been
Great
a long
to
time.
see you.
Good to be back.
We'll start with, who wants to start?
I'll
Brew, you're
go.
the Cowboys guy, but
No,
Nick,
go
go
to
ahead.
Nick.
Your
Yeah.
reaction to this story.
All right, so what are we talking about here? I think is an important thing to kind of set the template at. We're not talking about the top 4 quarterbacks. The Cowboys are not trading up into the top
6.
Well,
we're not talking about, right?
Well, I'll get to that part in a moment because the top 4 are going to be gone in the top, at worst, 11 picks of the draft, and probably the top 5 because someone's going to trade up.
Yep.
So we're not talking about those guys. If we were just talking about someone like Jordan Travis or Joe Milton, like a 5th or 6th round pick, then I don't even think it's a story.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the Cowboys traded a 4th for Trey Lance. So I read this as if Bo Nix, if Michael Penix falls, maybe not to the Cowboys' 1st round pick, but as you and I were talking about post-mock draft the other day, if one of those guys is available in the 2nd round, that the Cowboys could take them. And my response to that is, if you like that quarterback, that's smart business. And the Cowboys haven't, Coach, when it comes to quarterback business, operated smartly. They have borrowed extensively from the future. Just this is a little cash cap thing, just so people understand. The Cowboys the last 3 years have paid Dak $126 million. That is accounted for $64 million against their cap. So there's a $62 million borrow from future caps. That's why this year he's $55 million, and next year he's $40 million to not be on the team. $40 million dead money if he's gone after this coming season because they borrowed that money. So they need to, because they have not committed to Dak long term, at least be open to the possibility of resetting the quarterback contract clock like they did with Dak Prescott, a mid-round pick, by the way, and do it that. And so, yeah, I don't think that would be bad business. I think that would be smart business.
I think anytime you draft a quarterback, if you think he's got the potential to be good, it's good business. Because even if he doesn't become your starter, that's capital that you can then translate into higher draft picks in the future. So I get that, and I've always supported that. It's a pretty vague tweet, though, right? I mean, at some point, higher than you think. The last 2 quarterbacks I had, Dak was, 4th round?
Yeah.
Romo was a free agent. They haven't really drafted quarterbacks high, so I don't know why they would suddenly, jump up to get a guy unless they had some really strong feeling. But I'd like to see what Trey Lance can do. Trey Lance has had a year of sitting, a year of watching. He was drafted high for a reason. He's got ability. So what can he do in this system?
Coach has always been the Trey Lance guy.
Well, it's just hard.
Okay, I think we need to kind of give up on this whole Trey Lance narrative here because, guys, Shanahan is an amazing, elite offensive mind. He didn't want Trey Lance in the first place, and he specifically moved on from Trey Lance for peanuts. And I don't think he did that to help support Brock Purdy. Shanahan's too cutthroat for that, okay? So, Shanahan, if he felt that Trey Lance was legit or had that potential, especially with Brock Purdy coming back from the injury and knowing how important that roster is, and him seeing injuries mattering so significantly, whether it was the Brock Purdy injury or Christian McCaffrey injury or Debo injury or any of these types of injuries, he would have not gotten rid of Trey Lance. He would have said, Purdy, you're our quarterback. I know, understand Trey Lance is looking great in practice. You are the man. You are the man. Let's go. So I trust Shanahan. He's the one who's the genius. He's the one that was evaluating Trey Lance. He's the one that's been watching him and working with him for years, literal years in practice and, offseason, all that fun stuff. And he's like, nah, let's just get this guy out. I don't even want to feel like answering questions about him because it's so irrelevant. So this idea that Trey Lance is going to be able to do something, I would be stunned. Truly, truly stunned.
hard for me to imagine you're going to go get a guy in the 3rd or 4th round that you think has more potential than what Trey Lance has after a year in your system. So is it an interesting tweet? Yeah. Could they draft someone higher than you think? Yeah, but what's the bar for the Cowboys? Is it the 4th round, 3rd round?
Just to clarify, he said this on NFL Live.
So we were reading a quote that he gave on TV.
I saw the quote too, but even when I saw it, I'm like, okay, well, that's
Coach,
nice and vague.
I'm glad you brought up Trey Lance, because that was my first thought. Even before I thought about Dak Prescott, it was like, Trey Lance must not be good at all.
Yeah.
I mean,
that feels like
this is what you drafted or traded for Trey Lance for. The young quarterback, in case something happens with Dak, he's supposed to be a guy. Is he not showing them anything when he's running scout team at all? Like, they must just be out on him to consider this, because here's the problem. And you're right, maybe they draft a quarterback in the 6th or 7th round, or 7th or 8th, I think they have some picks. But they only have 3 picks in the first 150 picks. All right, they need an offensive lineman or a few offensive linemen. They need a running back. To waste that on a quarterback when you got Dak Prescott there, supposedly Trey Lance, I mean, I just think it's bad. And look, this has been, to me, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it was incomplete. But this offseason, Coach, I'm sorry. After saying you're going to be all in, how many starters? You lost your center, Tyler Biadasz. You lost your best running back. You lost one of your best pass rushers in Dorrance Armstrong. You lost your defensive coordinator. You lost your offensive tackle. All right? Your best wide receivers talking about sitting out or holding out.
And this is what I said before, that to me this highlights that the Cowboys just don't have a plan. Because, right, they said they're all in. And then they're like, no, we're all in on the players that we have. And, you know, mainly CeeDee Lamb, Micah, and Dak. And now it's coming out that, you know, CeeDee Lamb, you know, will only play for, you know, all the money in the world, which I understand. You know, Micah is running, is the Cowboys are running thin on him. They're going to draft a quarterback and maybe let Dak walk. I mean, it's just like the Cowboys are in a free-for-all right now. They really, really are. The Packers undressed them, showed them how they are truly not that good of a team, and that exposed them. And they've been drowning ever since. You know, from Micah saying, you know, we're the best team, we can compete with anyone, to we need more people, you know, to Dak saying the job's not done, we're ready to win, to, oh my God, we're getting blown out at home. It's just been a disaster. It's just been an absolute disaster. And knowing that they still have Mike McCarthy as their head coach, I just don't know the direction that the Cowboys are going in. And it's just, I know that they're not going in the right direction, but I don't know, are they going left, right, up, down? I don't know what they're doing, honestly. And like I said this before, I feel bad for Cowboys fans. I interact with a lot of Cowboys fans on this channel. I know how much you all care. And it's just like, the more I see this, the more stories I hear, the more insane it is. And again, I know, especially if you're a Cowboys fan, you don't want to hear this about the Eagles doing the things right. You know, they started realizing, okay, maybe Carson Wentz isn't that guy. And what did they do? You never heard about, you didn't hear anything. They just randomly drafted Jalen Hurts, and it was random. And they even managed it perfectly. Oh, you know, we just want a backup quarterback. We know how important that is. You know, Carson gets injured a little bit. We won a Super Bowl with the backup quarterback. And, you know, we think we're just going to play around with a few, you know, unique offense, you know, wildcat, some of this more like weird, random stuff. It's all good. It's all good. And then, you know, they just moved on from him. When there was some disruptions, they moved on from him, from Carson Wentz. And then within a year and a half, they went to the Super Bowl, right? The Cowboys are in this mess. It's, you know, this whole back and forth with Dak, and like how Nick highlighted, pushing, you know, kicking the can down the road. And now they're like, well, I don't know. And then they get Trey Lance. And it's like, well, what are you doing with Trey Lance? Does that mean you don't think Dak's good enough? And now Trey Lance isn't good. And so now you have to draft another quarterback. It's just so messy. It's really, really, really messy.
You know, now there's reports that you don't like your best player, Micah Parsons,
yes,
and you're not
exactly.
going to resign your quarterback, and now you're talking about drafting somebody else?
But hold on.
And you know, Nick, I didn't mean to do this.
What is he doing?
But fellas,
Oh no!
bring it out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's too much.
This
is
offseason,
Bro, wipe your
this
head.
offseason
haven't even gotten to
has
the
been an F for the
That's true.
Dallas Cowboys. I
That's
couldn't
great.
help myself, but it's
extreme.
just true.
I got you.
This
Wild.
seems like
All
a
right,
really
that seems a little
It's
harsh.
just true.
I mean, Coach is
what is
here,
going to
so-
submit? Am I
It
wrong, Coach?
might be fair.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Goodness
I mean, what
gracious.
does all in mean? All in means you go get one linebacker? Like, what does all
No,
in
that
mean?
quote
What
has
the
not.
world is
That quote is not lined up with their offseason. There's no question.
Thank
about
you,
it.
Nick.
That
Yeah,
part I
thank
don't
you.
disagree with. What I do though wonder is on the quarterback part of it is if they are. The Cowboys do seem to like to negotiate through the media,
Yes.
right?
Another thing.
And if they are, because I think they are playing a bit of chicken with Dak Prescott. Because I'm sure whether they're saying it or not, one of the things that they think they have as kind of a bullet in the chamber, so to speak, is, hey, Dak, the last few notable Cowboy quarterbacks, what's their post-career earnings look like? You see Troy Aikman making 8 figures for, I'm not counting Troy's money, I love them. They deserve the money, but those are big, 2 of the most high-profile
More than they
NFL
made
jobs,
playing.
right?
Troy Aikman is one of the best, commentators in NFL. He's my favorite. So comparing Troy Aikman, I mean, that's like making every comparison when we compare every quarterback to like Mahomes or Tom Brady. It's like okay, what is we? Everyone has to play like Tom Brady? Obviously not. And so Troy Aikman is a GOAT commentator, okay, a color commentator. So that doesn't make any sense.
For him, and you can say, this offseason you're going to go to the highest bidder, but what if it's about money, how much money is it worth being the Cowboys quarterback versus being the Tennessee Titans quarterback or whomever? I also would say this, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, Coach.
I mean, are we assuming that Dak's going to be a really good announcer?
Well, no, I don't. Well, I don't.
And what
no,
other
But even when during your
that's-
career, you're making money off the field.
Yeah, and
as
so
a
no, that's
Cowboys
fair.
player.
But this is where I wanted to see if you agree with me on. I think that this past season was a worst case scenario from a Dak contract, figuring out Dak's future standpoint, which is you got the best and the worst mixed into one. If you're the Cowboys and you're like, all right, we're going to have to figure out after the 2023 season, we know we're facing a deadline on Dak Prescott and his deal. We're going to have to figure out what we're doing. Are we going to move off him or are we going to extend him? What are we going to do? And in the regular season, he has the best one of his career. Yep. He's a legitimate MVP candidate.
Playing
And
terrible
like,
teams.
wow. You know what I mean? He lost his offensive coordinator, did that.
He had a losing record against the playoff and winning teams that season. The best of his career. So the best of his career was still a losing record against the winning teams. That's just, let's
exactly right. And in the playoff game, he has, I would argue, his worst postseason game as a significant favorite. All of it.
He wasn't alone in that game.
No, I totally
that
agree
first
with
half,
you.
there was a 95-yard drive. There was a 75. There was
There's
a lot of people.
a lot of people to blame.
Your boy had one half tackle or whatever.
Why is he my guy?
Well, I know you want
Well, that
to
was
go-
your team this year. That was
You
your
want to
team.
go on his podcast
Okay, that's
all the
fine.
time.
It's a solo podcast. He doesn't have guests. But the point is, it really complicated the situation. Right? Like, if Dak had just been bad, it's easy. If it just been a regular year where it's like, hey, we win a playoff game, we get beat by the Niners in round 2, it's probably easy. But he was so good in the regular season and then so bad along with his teammates in the playoffs, it muddied the waters entirely on what they're going to do moving forward at this position.
Can I just, we only have about one more minute left, but I'm going to show you a graphic, Coach, and I think Coach likes this stuff. Once the franchise quarterback comes in, has a monster year after Jimmy G, one of the winning
get outta
quarterbacks
here.
of all time. And once Jordan Love was drafted, which Aaron Rodgers did not like, he had to pour himself a large glass of whiskey.
This is so silly. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Tom Brady is obviously the best quarterback, or, maybe Patrick Mahomes will one day pass him. So, get out of here. Right. So Dak Prescott is in the same conversation as Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Right. I mean, this is where the stats and the graphics are always just so dumb to me, because it's just what are we talking about here? Right? when that happened, both those quarterbacks had already won, MVPs, Super Bowls, all that fun stuff. So, yeah, what has Dak done? It hasn't even played in an NFC championship game, let alone win one, let alone get to a Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl. So, this whole, that's nonsense. I mean, my God. But I really think that the Cowboys are in serious trouble. And I said this in my other video with them. And I'll just say it very quickly if you guys didn't see that one. With Dak Prescott, if you move on from Dak and you draft a quarterback, this idea that you can get a cheap quarterback who's just pretty good and win is completely, everyone's confused about this. Yes, it works, but you need to have a top level elite offensive head coach or offensive coordinator. No ifs, ands, or buts. No ifs, ands, or buts. Okay? Because we love to use the 49ers as a reference for this. Do you really think Mike McCarthy is leading that 49ers team with Garoppolo or Purdy to the Super Bowl? 3 points from winning against the Chiefs. Absolutely, positively not. Will they be a complete, a disaster? No, I'm not saying that either. But Shanahan is what makes that work. Shanahan is what makes maybe an average quarterback or a good quarterback or an up-and-coming quarterback comfortable. He knows how to put them in positions to succeed and how to get all the pieces moving. How to make Christian McCaffrey happy, Debo happy, Kittle happy, right? Shanahan is a genius. Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds the NFL has ever seen. I don't care what anyone has to say. For some reason, it's pretty cool these days to hate on him. And it's like, I really don't know what to say. If you either see it or you don't. So this idea that the Cowboys will be able to do that without an elite offensive mind there, I just don't see it. I don't understand. And who are you hiring now at this point? Because to me, that ship has sailed with Harbaugh. Maybe if you can get the OC from Detroit, but now you're asking like a first-year head coach to be able to win with like a rookie quarterback who's maybe not elite and probably just average or good. And your roster's not even necessarily elite and stacked. Like you're going to be in the process of trying to do that with the money that you now have. It's a tall ask to do. In a lot of ways, it's kind of what the Arizona Cardinals tried to do when they got Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. That didn't exactly pan out. Granted, they definitely ran into some issues with Kyler getting injured, and I actually think Kingsbury is a pretty good coach. I don't know if he's the best head coach, but I do believe in him from an offensive perspective. But they messed things up when they decided to run this back with McCarthy, because if you're going to get a new quarterback, you're better off doing it with your new coach into the future. Because now, if Sean McDermott gets fired, or a couple other coaches get fired around the league, it's like, who's going to want to go to the Cowboys with this rookie second, third round quarterback? Who wants that job? I'm going to go coach Josh Allen. So I just don't see it. They lost it. They could have gotten Sean Payton. Sean Payton was available. I'm pretty confident if Sean Payton was going to pick between Denver and Dallas, he would have picked Dallas. He would have picked Dallas. And he didn't do it. They didn't offer it to him. Jerry Jones has all the money in the world. He could have made an offer to Sean Payton, to Harbaugh. He could have done those things, and he didn't. So I just don't know what you're expecting. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.